Now, in the past, for thousands and thousands of years of human history, nobody knew enough biology, and nobody had enough computing power in order to hack human beings. So even if the secret police followed you around 24 hours a day, watching everything you do, they still couldn't know what was really happening inside your brain. They still couldn't really understand your feelings, or predict your choices, or manipulate your desires. But soon, corporations and governments will have enough understanding of biology and enough computing power to hack humans. And when this happens, and it is already beginning to happen, then authority will gradually shift from humans to algorithms. And this is already beginning to happen in more and more fields, even in democratic societies. Even without any government coercion, people are willingly entrusting more and more authority to the algorithms. We trust Facebook to tell us what is new. We trust Google Search to tell us what is true. We trust Google Maps to tell us where to go. Netflix tells us what to watch, and Amazon tells us what to buy. Eventually, within 10 or 20 or 30 years, such algorithms could also tell you what to study at college, and where to work, and whom to marry, and even whom to vote for. And as algorithms become better, they can not only guide and control humans, they might also replace humans in more and more jobs. And this is even true, or especially true, of jobs that demand a good understanding of human feelings. For example, there is a lot of talk these days about self-driving cars. But even in order to replace human drivers, self-driving vehicles, or the computers that drive these vehicles, they need not just to know how to navigate the road, they need to understand humans. They need to understand and anticipate the behavior both of human customers and also of human pedestrians. They need, for example, to recognize the difference between an 80-year-old and an 18-year-old and a 40-year-old that are approaching the road. And they need to understand something about the difference in behavior between small children and teenagers and adults. Similarly, in order to replace human doctors, computer will need to understand not just our diseases, but also our emotional moods. The computer will have to know whether a patient is angry or fearful or depressed. But it's very likely that computers will be able to do that better than most human doctors, because after all, anger and fear and depression are biochemical phenomena just like flu and cancer and diabetes. If computers can diagnose flu, computers can also diagnose fear. Now, of course, as all jobs in driving vehicles and in diagnosing diseases will gradually disappear, all kinds of new jobs, which we cannot even imagine at present, will emerge. But the new jobs, too, will continue to change and to disappear. Few jobs will remain the same for decades, for a long time. Some people imagine that the coming automation revolution will be a one-time event. Let's say in 2025, you have the big automation revolution, lots of jobs disappear, lots of new jobs appear, we have a couple of rough years, and then everything settles down to a new equilibrium in the job market and in the economy. But it will not be like that. It will be a cascade of ever bigger disruptions. You have a big revolution in 2025. You have an even bigger revolution in 2035, because by then AI is so much better. And an even bigger revolution in 2045, which means that to stay relevant, you will have to reinvent yourself, not just once, but repeatedly. Like every 10 years, 15 years, to reinvent yourself. And the main obstacle for doing that might well be psychological, more than economic or technological. It's just very, very hard to reinvent yourself, especially after a certain age. When you're 15 or when you're 18, you're basically creating yourself, inventing yourself, and it is very, very difficult. But it's much more difficult to do it when you're 40 or 50. You probably know by now that adults don't like to change. They tell you to change all the time, but they don't like to change themselves because it's very difficult. So the most important goals of education in the 21st century are probably to develop your emotional intelligence and your mental balance, because you will need a lot of mental balance and mental resilience to deal with a very hectic world, to keep learning throughout your lives, and to repeatedly reinvent yourself and stay ahead of the algorithms. Now, I hope all this doesn't depress you too much. It's not the point. I mean, they told me repeatedly, don't scare the kids. But I really think that you can handle it, that you can really rise to the challenge. Humans are extremely adaptable beings. If we know what we are facing, we can adapt to it and we can find solutions.